it must be challenging trying to set something up complete from scratch. And have you had many objections like that? Is there any preconceptions with anyone within the wider technology teams? Or?
Well, I think I'm lucky here that the culture is very open.
Yeah.
The team are really interested in learning new things. And it's a very collaborative culture here as well. And that kind of traditional approach, traditional enterprise architecture approach, it just doesn't fit with agile teams, and it certainly wouldn't fit with our team here. I would never want to be in a position where the architecture team was ivory towering or handing over designs to the team. So this is really about making sure that we have a collaborative process, but making sure that we have the governance where we need it, but keeping that framework very lightweight, so that it becomes about empowering and enabling the teams rather than telling them they can't do something.
Yeah.
So really being clear about where the teams can make decisions and where we need to have a conversation has been kind of the key thing that I've been introducing. So we have some very clear guidelines, borrowed wholesale from Amazon. So they have this concept of type 1 and type 2 decisions, where a type 1 decision is consequential, you need to think about it carefully, it's going to impact a lot of teams. And then type 2 decisions are reversible, you can try them out, see if they work. If they do, great. If they don't, we can try something else. And so that's really where we're drawing the line. If it's a type 1 decision, architecture, we need to have a conversation, we need to understand what the impact is, what the cost could be, how it's going to affect the organisation. If it's a type 2 decision, it's only affecting the team within the domain, they're completely empowered to make that decision.
Yeah, I think that's a great approach. I think the conversations I've had around Agile have been, we've set up a governance board, and we can push something through within 24, 48 hours, but I think actually clearly defining what should go through that sort of process from the outset must save you buckets of time.
Absolutely, and we're a small team. Obviously, we're a growing team, but we have a tech team of about 150. We've got an architecture team of 3, and there needs to be a balance there. So it's important that we are focusing our efforts on the most important thing in the same way that the teams are. So we have a very lightweight kind of Kanban approach where people can bring us their type 1 problems or their new disruptive technology, their new products and services. If they've got a problem where we're getting an unexpected amount of use on a service and we need to scale it, or we need to solve HA for a particular database technology, that comes into our kind of backlog, and then we can prioritize that in the team. And then really the bulk of the work for my architecture team is making sure that approach is collaborative, that somebody is owning the facilitation of getting to a solution, rather than it being a case of designing a solution and handing it over.
So we've touched on governance, but I guess there's another angle to that as well.
Yeah, so for me, governance is really about building a framework to help people make decisions. So it's less about very detailed kind of rules people have to follow, but it's more about values and principles. So I think the goal for me is to build a framework within which teams can be autonomous.
Yeah.
And over time, that framework could become stifling for those teams, and at that point, that's when we work together to expand that framework. But I think there are really 3 things that you need to have to be successful with architecture. One is you do need some lightweight governance, but you also need to have objectives for the team so they know what their mission is, they know what they're trying to do, and then you need to have mechanisms for sharing knowledge as well. So for us, we have a guild for architecture, which includes our engineering managers who are our architecture representatives in the team. So one of their hats that they wear is kind of an application architect, and they are responsible for triggering these conversations. So we have some guidelines. We talked about the type 1 and type 2 decisions, but we have some specific examples. So if you're building something new, if you're doing something that's high risk, if you're doing something that we've never done before, it's new technology, then those are the kind of things where we need to have a conversation, and the responsibility is on that engineering manager in that team to say, we're coming up against this, we need to have a conversation. Over time, as the architecture team grows, I hope that we're going to be able to get ahead of that, so that we can get to a point where based on our knowledge of the product roadmap for their team, and based on our knowledge of their tech stack, we'll be able to say, it looks as if in the next kind of 6 weeks, we're going to hit this problem, so we're going to begin to tackle that. Because the goal is always to make sure that the team isn't blocked by a difficult decision, or we need to do a bunch of research, or we need to go away and get budget approval for something we're trying to do. So getting ahead of the teams, it's out of the scaled agile framework. They talk about this concept of architectural runway.
Okay.
I really like that concept. So I think we want to just be 4 to 6 weeks ahead of the team. So we're not 3 to 5 years down the line, but we're just keeping far enough ahead of them so that we can make sure that they don't get blocked more than anything.
So taking that proactive approach instead of facing these problems when they happen.
Yeah, absolutely, and that can blend with our longer term strategies. So we have themes that we're addressing, kind of our longer term strategic themes. We have particular initiatives that we're trying to do as an architecture team, so improvements we want to make. Generally, things that technology consolidation, for example, and then we can work that in as well and see where that opportunity is based on what the teams have got coming up, so that we're really, because the challenge is always how do you balance the longer term benefit with the shorter term benefit. And for a long time, as a fast growth company, short term benefit was definitely something that was the focus. But that's a hard balance to get, because short term benefit is important, but long term benefit is definitely going to be something you want when you get there 6 months down the line. So that's a difficult balance. So when we see an opportunity to deliver something that will give us business benefit, but also take us in the right direction architecturally, those are the things that we really try and jump on.